For this next story, I have a question for you. How many times in a day do you hop on Google to ask something? Say on average, it's 4 to 5 searches. Globally, the Google search button is pressed 8.5 billion times. That's 99,000 searches every single second. If you're wondering why I'm throwing these numbers at you, it is because your beloved search engine is under the scanner. We have long debated Google's market monopoly. Why has no other search engine come close to Google? Can this kind of monopoly be dangerous in today's internet era, and do people know the complete truth? Microsoft CEO Satya Nadella is raising similar questions. The US government is holding an antitrust trial against Google. The accusation against Google is that it is actively quashing its competition. Nadella took the stand for a 3.5-hour testimony. He laid out how and why Microsoft could not overcome Google. At the center of this dispute, Nadella blames Google's multi-billion-dollar deals. Allegedly, Google paid $10 billion every year to make it as the default search engine for users, which basically means if you search for something on your smartphone or on your web browsers, the answer will lie within Google, unless, of course, you change the default setting. This allegation has raised concerns about anti-competitive behavior in the tech industry. Interestingly enough, Microsoft itself faced an antitrust lawsuit in 2001, where it was accused of monopolizing its Internet Explorer. Systems were designed in a way that the web browser was not allowed to be uninstalled. The company was also accused of curbing the influence of its competition. So in today's lawsuit, Microsoft has really come full circle. Coming back to Google now, it has time and again defended its stance. The tech giant says it dominates the market because its product is the best. But is not so black and white, is it? While it is legal for two tech giants to sign a deal, it is also illegal to crush competition in the process. And Google seems to be playing in this gray area. The company has struck a deal with Apple. Each year, Google pays billions to keep its search engine as a default option on Apple devices. Of course, a consumer can go to settings and change this, but how many of you actually do that? Let me answer that for you with some numbers. Not surprising, Google dominates the market with 83.49%. And even if you add the rest, that is Bing, Yahoo, Yandex, Baidu and DuckDuckGo, it comes to just 14.79%. Google's parent company Alphabet is the world's largest technology conglomerate. Its market capitalization stands at $1.69 trillion, and a large portion of this comes from Google. For context, only 12 countries may have more GDP than Google. So while the courtroom drama unfolds, it is evident that this legal clash is not just about default settings. Competitive dynamics among tech giants is at the core. And with the emergence of artificial intelligence, the water is only going to get murkier. And to give us more insights, we are now being joined by Adrian Mars. He's a tech journalist and broadcaster from London. Thanks for joining us, Adrian.
Pleasure, Priyanka.
Now, this is something we've debated for years. You've also spoken about this on WION. Google being the de facto search engine. Is this manipulation? Is Google breaking any law by doing this?
Other than competition law, which is what this trial is about, there is no specific law that says they can do this. But this is what this trial will decide. They've been paying Apple Apple chose Google effectively, and they didn't have to pay anything to have it the default search engine there. They gave away the Android software to the world, made it what's called open source, so anybody can edit it. But really, in order to get access to the kind of some of the key features like maps and other things, manufacturers have had to agree to put on Google's App Store and all of these and many extra things. And when companies haven't, like Amazon, who have made their Fire tablets using Android, but providing their own App Store and other services, they've actually there's been quite a lot of retribution and kickback from Google. And I remember when Google first launched Android, their response to me was, why are you doing this, was, well, the more people have access to the internet, it's good for us, and it's good for the world. We're just giving it away. And it turned out not to be the case. They've used this very much to force users to by default have Google search, and they've discouraged Apple from expanding their own search products.
Right.
They said they'll stop paying them if they don't, and the same for Samsung, who wanted to develop their own search engine. So Google's response to all of this is, well, Google is just better. Google search is better. I think it is the best search engine out there. But an argument by the Justice Department is that this is partly because other search engines don't get a chance to grow and expand. And small players like DuckDuckGo will only ever get a very, very small part of the market.
Absolutely.
I mean, this is one of a whole series of similar cases. So an Indian appeals court fined Google 160 million, which in terms of Google's revenue, I mean, is almost, it's just nothing. That was related to Android's market dominance bought by the Competition Commission of India. The EU in 2018, they fined them a record $5 billion for using Android to squeeze out others. That was 2 weeks of revenue. That was a record fine. So the big threat to Google here is that the company is broken up. And that doesn't happen very often. The last time I think a tech company was broken up was when in 1984, where they broke up AT&T, which did increase mobile phone competition significantly.
Adrian, just talking a little bit more about this deal between Apple and Google, you say that Google's argument has always been that we're better. So will this deal, will it give Google an edge over competition, a bigger edge than it already has?
Well, the deal they have has been to pay not just these guys, but also one of the benefits of them paying people, it should be said, is that they it mostly funds the development of Firefox, an alternative web browser to Google's Chrome, and they're a non-profit. They make so that Mozilla are really dependent on Google. Right. So you could argue that there's some good and some competition being encouraged by this behavior. Would we have better search engines if people like Apple and Samsung develop their own? Only time will tell if that's allowed to happen. You could argue that it's even subsidizing the cost of our phones. Whether phone prices would rise, I don't know, or whether the profits of these companies would just rise if they didn't have to pay Google this money.
Adrian, those are some pertinent points, and I have to say, I think this debate will continue. Thanks for joining us on WION at this hour. WION World is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news updates on the move.